Good evening, everyone. This is Rebecca with Red True Crime, and this is Thursday's Child. So these are videos I do just about every Thursday. I did take off last week because I was just simply exhausted with life. And what I am covering on these are the oldest unsolved missing child cases, one from each of the 50 states. So this week we are covering California, and that means we are talking about Walter Collins. Yes, Walter Collins. This happened in March 10, 1928. So you guys may not have heard of this case. Now, if you're a fan of cinema and you're a fan of Angelina Jolie, then you would have heard of it through her movie, The Changeling. It does talk about Walter Collins' missing person case and the lengths his mother, Christine Collins, went to try and find him. So, how can I put this? In Los Angeles in 1928 was a bit corrupt with police, and 9-year-old Walter Collins left his home to go to the movies. Now, if you watch the movie, it changes it up a little bit, little facts here and there, but point is the kid went missing. He was left without a trace. And his case shocked the nation. It really did, because not only did he go missing, but you had police trying to force another child onto his mother, claiming it was him. And it's crazy what all transpired to keep this from blowing up. So Walter lived with his mother, Christine Collins, who was a telephone operator and a single parent who worked hard to provide for her son. On the fateful afternoon that Walter left their Lincoln Heights home, heading to a nearby movie theater, but the sun had set and he never returned home. Christine reported her son missing to the LAPD, who initially believed that Walter had simply run away, but Christine knew better. She was very close to her son, so there's no shot of him ever running away. Days turned into weeks, and the search for Walter intensified. The LAPD was under mounting pressure to solve the case as the city of Los Angeles watched in horror. And his mother, Christine, tirelessly distributed flyers everywhere, knocking on doors, pleaded with the public for help, but despite efforts, there was no trace of her son. So, at some point, about 5 months down the road, after Walter has disappeared, LAPD announces they've got a breakthrough. A young boy claiming to be Walter has been found in DeKalb, Illinois. And then they bring him back to Los Angeles. Emotional reunion was reported and covered by the press, and LAPD proudly presented the case as a success because they needed one, because they had just been run through the gamut at this point. But for Christine, something was wrong. She knew immediately the kid that was brought to her was not her kid. And but LAPD was so desperate for a win, they're like, that's your kid, take it, go home, give it some time. You just haven't seen him in a while.
Well, aren't you gonna...
It's not my son.
What? What are you saying?
It's not my son.
Oh, I'm sure you're mistaken.
I'm not mistaken.
Well, he's been through 5 terrible long months. He's lost weight. He's changed.
I would know my own son.
All I'm saying is you're in shock and he's changed.
What's your name? Can you tell me your name?
Walter Collins.
It's a common name.
Where do you live, Walter? You know your home address?
I live at 210 Avenue 23, Los Angeles, California. And that's my mommy.
Mrs. Collins, listen to me. I understand. You're feeling a little uncertain right now, and that's to be expected. A boy this age, he changes so fast. We've compensated for that in our investigation. And there's no question that this is your son.
That is not Walter.
It's not Walter as you remember him. And that's why it's important for you to take him home on a trial basis.
A trial basis?
Yes, yes. Once he's around his familiar surroundings, you've given yourself time to recover from the shock of his changed condition, you will see that this is your Walter. Now, I promise you, I swear to you, I give you my word. This is your son. Now, if you have any problems at all, you come and you talk to me. I'll take care of it. I give you my word, trust me. Mrs. Collins, he has nowhere else to go.
Well, Christine Collins refused to accept the lie and kept going back to LAPD and demanding they reopen the case. They, being not wanting to admit any mistake, was convinced or had convinced others that she was just delusional. And they were already under fire for rampant corruption, and acknowledging that they had returned the wrong child would have been another scandal for an embattled department. Now, despite the mounting evidence that Walter was likely, well, let me tell you a little bit more about where they went, what they did to Christine to shut her up, because she just was not wanting to admit, they were not wanting to admit that they made a mistake. Because she just would not let it go and would refuse to accept this kid as her own, LAPD had her deemed crazy and stuck her in an institution. They had her under what's called a Section 40. And this was used as a special little, if you're a bother, we can use this and you get locked up until further notice. Now, I'm sorry, it was Code 12 is what they used. At this point, you're starting to hear more and more about boys that are missing. And then you hear about the Wineville chicken coop murders, or the Wineville chicken coop killers. And there was a good possibility that Walter was one of their victims. But LAPD refused to admit their mistake. Christine's insistence that the returned boy was not her son led to a chilling response, and they had her locked up. Let's see. After she was locked up, her nightmare only ended after Los Angeles Times expose brought the truth to light. She was released, and a public outcry forced the LAPD to confront their corruption and incompetence. Christine sued the LAPD and won a landmark judgment against Captain J.J. Jones. But the money was never paid, and her fight, however, sparked widespread reforms and brought national attention to the police corruption. So, basically, because she refused to accept the child that they brought to her as her own kid, they said, okay, we can't have this scandal, so we're going to lock you away until further notice. She was able to get an attorney and a journalist, and they exposed everything, and they got her out. Now, the boy, I forget his name, and I had it in here, but I guess it's not here now. The boy that they presented, he was a runaway, and he wanted to actually go to California. He lied and said he was Walter Collins because he was trying to meet some cowboy. I forget the guy, which one they were wanting to see, but that's why he lied. He wanted to go to California, go check out the movie stars, and meet a cowboy, a TV cowboy. That is why he was there. Now, the Wineville chicken coop murders. So while Christine fought for the truth, a parallel investigation was unfolding in Wineville, California. A case that would expose an unimaginable horror. Authorities arrested Gordon Stewart Northcott, a Canadian-born farmer, for a series of gruesome child murders that would become known as the Wineville chicken coop murders. Northcott had kidnapped, abused, and murdered multiple boys on his family's chicken ranch, and the discovery sent shockwaves through Southern California. As the investigation progressed, it became clear that Walter Collins may have been one of Northcott's victims. And that seems to be general accepted plausible idea of what happened to him, that he was one of those victims. Now, although Gordon Northcutt was executed in 1930, the exact fate of Walter Collins was never conclusively determined. His remains were never found, leaving Christine with a lifetime of unanswered questions. Christine Collins never gave up hope that her son was still alive, and until her death in 1964, she continued her search, believing that one day Walter might come home. That is so sad. The case of Walter Collins not only exposed the darkest corners of law enforcement, but also served as a catalyst for change in the way missing children cases were handled. While Walter's story remains an unresolved mystery, his disappearance ignited reforms that protect children and hold authorities accountable to this day. Now, I could not even imagine, my kid going missing. I mean, that's traumatic enough. And then when the police are like, hey, we found your child, and they bring you a kid that's not yours, and you're like, that's not my kid. And you keep telling them, and they're like, yeah, it is. It's your kid. Take it. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. No, that's not, I'm not buying that at all. That's just insane. But let's get more into the Northcutt people. So, now, Wineville was a small, unassuming town in Riverside County, California, known more for its rural charm and not really known for the unspeakable horrors that were yet to come to light. So Gordon Stewart Northcutt was a Canadian, and he was the primary architect behind a series of child abductions, assaults, and murders, and his method was as shocking as it was ruthless. Let's see. Now, the reason why they call it the chicken coop murders is that the bodies were buried mostly underneath the chicken coop. Or that's where he killed them. He did both. He buried them under the chicken coop, and he killed them and did horrible things to these kids inside that chicken coop. And in between 1920 and 1928, a disturbing number of kids vanished from their communities. Later investigations suggested that Northcutt's operation may have claimed the lives of over 20 innocent kids. Brutality and method of concealment shocked the nation and left a permanent scar on California's criminal history. Now, how they even caught this was a breakthrough came when an associate whose involvement would later be scrutinized provided details that linked Northcutt directly to the crimes. As evidence mounted, authorities were forced to confront the grim reality of the case, leading to arrests and a trial that would expose not only Northcutt's monstrous actions, but also systemic failures with law enforcement. Now, if I remember correctly in the movie, I think a kid got loose. One of the kids he was using. He kept alive that he had kidnapped, and the boy got loose and went to authorities. I think that's how they cracked the case. Let's see. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Wineville, California renamed itself to something else. They're no longer known as Wineville because they wanted to get away from that as much as possible. But, and it's still considered one of California's most disturbing true crime cases. I mean, I don't know how, that's pretty disturbing when you're murdering children, but I still think Manson, kind of takes the cake on that one. So that is the story on Walter Collins. Very sad situation. No one on earth that would even fly today with someone trying to hand you a child that's not yours. That's just not going to happen. But I could not even imagine passing away not knowing what happened to your kid. But it is most likely that Walter was a victim of Northcutt. Now, they did ask him, Northcutt, before he was executed, and he denied that it was, he had anything to do with Walter. But who knows? Most likely that's what happened to him. Christine was a single mom. I know her ex-husband had nothing to do with the kid, so I know that was one speculation that maybe he took him, but he didn't have him either. But I could not imagine trying to speak my truth and then being institutionalized because cops don't want to look bad. My Lord, could you imagine all the time to be locked up now for this channel? But, yeah, that's the story of Walter Collins. To this day, no one knows what happened to him. And he would be 106 years old now. Crazy, right? I cannot even imagine. Alright, well, if you like this video, there'll be others. And highly recommend like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And thank you for tuning in. This is Rebecca with Red True Crime. This is Thursday's Child and the story of Walter Collins. Thank you. Have a great night.